through gymnastics, I made bonds with teammates that, you know, I still have today. And it's those friendships that I don't have to see them for 5 years or 10 years or a year or 6 months. But when we're together, we've got that, we share that bond. And it's because of those tough times and those difficult training sessions. And I guess 4 of the guys that I became best friends with growing up were Ashley Watson. So I did a podcast a few years ago with Ashley, and we talked about how when we were 8 years old, I went to my first big gymnastics competition. It was called the NDPs, the National Development Plan Finals, I think. And we got there to the hotel, me and my family. So I had my cousins there, my brothers, my sisters, all my aunties, my mum and dad. And there was like a big outdoor play area, and went outside and we're playing football. And this is the night before the competition, and Ashley and his family were there, and we challenged him to a football match. And during this football match, we realised that Ashley was a gymnast and he was going to be competing the next day. And I can remember my big cousin kind of saying to Ashley's brothers and sisters, "Oh, my cousin's amazing at gymnastics, he's going to beat you tomorrow." And Ashley's like brothers and sisters and cousins were saying the same thing. And then we went to the competition the next day, and Ashley Watson was really good at gymnastics and he won the competition. He was a year above me, and he scored a perfect 10. And from that moment on, I've known Ashley for 22 years now. And a similar story when I met Reece Betford. So we used to do exchanges at Notts. It was a really cool thing. Like, our club would go to a different club and we'd stay with different families, and then we'd swap and do the same thing the other way around. And we went down to Essex, and I remember swinging around a high bar at 9 years old, I think I was, on the shiny bar with this lad called Reece. And I said to him, "Oh, what's your name?" And he said, "Oh, my name's Reece." He said, "What's your name?" I said, "My name's Sam." And he said, "How old are you?" I said, "Oh, I'm 9. And he said, "Oh, I'm 10. And I can remember his coach was there at the time, and his coach said, "Oh, look, Reece, there's someone that's younger than you and is smaller than you." And then he said, "Oh, when's your birthday?" I said, "Oh, the 17th of February. He said, "No way, that's when my birthday is." And ever since then, me and Reece have been really close friends. And then the other person within that 4, because we really grew up together, we were the same generation, and we went to the 2010 European Championships and we won a gold medal. And the other lad that was my age and was a month apart was Max. And the first time I met Max was at a GB trial. And we sat there and I said, "What's your name?" He said, "Oh, my name's Max." And he was phenomenal at that age. And ever since that age, me and Max competed in the same age group up until we were 18 and we turned senior. And one of the trips we went on all together as 4, one of my favourite trips ever, was to Australia, to the Youth Olympic Festival. So we went out to Australia, which was incredibly exciting because my dad was born in Australia. And he was really excited about me going there. I'd heard amazing things about Australia. We were 15 at the time, so it was like going on a trip with your best mates. I remember that on the aeroplane to get out there, we went in January. It was early January, and it's the same time as the Australian Open. And there'd been, right towards the end of the trip, we were like 22 hours into the flight, and I was sat next to... it was a Ukrainian tennis player, and she was in her tennis outfit, like a white tennis tracksuit. And like the lady had walked around and she'd said, "Right, does anybody want a drink?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll have a glass of orange." And I put it on my tray table, and I've like nodded off and fell asleep. And then when I sleep on a plane, especially back then, I used to dream about gymnastics. So I'd dream about it and I'd flinch and throw my arms, and I've thrown this orange juice all over this lady's white tracksuit, and she's covered in this pure orange juice, and she starts shouting at me in Ukrainian, and luckily Sergey was sat behind me and he can speak the language, and he calmed her down. But that kind of set the trip, and it was just a brilliant trip after that. The first night we were watching the tennis on the TV, and we all fell asleep on the sofa, all 4 of us, and one by one we kind of drifted off to our rooms. And we had an amazing time, and we did really well. We beat China, first time a Great Britain team had ever beaten China. We won loads of medals. It was an incredible trip. One of the really funny things that happened on that trip was on the last day on the finals, I wasn't competing because I'd had an injury. So I had a broken metatarsal at the time, and I wasn't in the last day of finals. So I thought, this would be great if I go out, because there was a McDonald's about 10 minutes away. If I buy McDonald's for everyone, they'll love this when we finish the competition. So I can remember walking to this McDonald's about 10 minutes down, carrying all of these McDonald's, like 4 people's meals of McDonald's, dropping it all over the place. And when I got back to the team and we all like shared this McDonald's, this woman just came walking up to us, and she just went out of nowhere. She went, "Reece, I'm your auntie. And we all looked at each other like, what? And Reece said, are you? And Reece hadn't known this, but this lady had like tracked him down, and it was his auntie, just out of nowhere. And they're the funny things that you remember from trips like that. And we'd been to see these koala bears and bought, in the souvenir shop, I'd bought a boomerang. And we'd gone out, left the hotel that we were staying at, and we'd climbed over this fence into this park. And we've got this wooden boomerang. It was always me that used to do this stupid stuff. And I thought, right, let's give it a go. This park's big enough. And I've thrown this boomerang, and it's absolutely flown miles, and it's curved up like that, and it's arched back, and it's gone up and shot over our heads, and it's hit this window and like smashed this window. And we've all just looked at each other, ran back over the fence into the hotel room. So when I look back at my training camps and trips and all those competitions I used to go to, it's very rare I ever remember the gymnastics. I always remember the mischief that we used to get up to, and it was just an amazing way to grow up. And traveling the world with all of those lads, for me, it was brilliant. And yeah, they're friends that I'll have for life. And I know that, you know, since then, since Australia, we all stay in touch. We all went to Max's wedding, and there's a really great photo of us all in Australia after we won our team gold medal, and they would give you these kangaroos, these yellow cuddly toy kangaroos with red boxing gloves on, and there's a picture of us. So anytime we ever get together now, we always recreate that picture. So we recreated it at Max's wedding. And yeah, I think for me, the amazing thing about gymnastics is those people, and it was that bond. And I always loved, the thing I loved the most about my gymnastics career was working in a team. And it was understanding that everybody had their role to play. And, you know, you can go far alone, but you can go further together.